It's the Awake Space Astrology Podcast, and I'm Lori Rivers, your host, here to help you with some inspiration to make those aspirations realized out in the world. Well, it's been an interesting day, September 8th, 2022. Queen Elizabeth has died. And regardless of your feelings of this person, they were a long-lasting symbol of power, and when symbol of powers pass on, they release a hell of a lot of energy. And so I see it as rather symbolic of the changes that we face in the world. I talked about this on TikTok tonight, and it's kind of late. I've been meaning to get this podcast done before the full moon on the 10th, which I'll be talking about in this episode as well. You can go to YouTube. I'll put the link up in the description of the podcast, and you can watch what I was talking about on TikTok tonight about Queen Elizabeth II, King Charles III, that's going to take a minute, and Prince William. There's some very, very interesting astrology coming up, and we've got more eclipses. So one of the things I saw at the beginning of the year was that the May eclipse, it was the 15th in the US, 16th in Great Britain, really hit Queen Elizabeth right in the midhaven. And her Saturn was very close to her midhaven. And so the moon traveled over that before eclipsing on her midhaven. So in what I saw, it was her being released from her duty. Okay. I don't like talking about public figures' charts as individual people, like getting into the nitty-gritty of their personality or their private life. They're in a goldfish bowl, and it's just my personal belief. Whether you like them, don't like them, that's just kind of how I feel. But anyway, I've got that. I'll have that YouTube link up for you to look at some of that astrology. Interestingly, I don't see Charles abdicating at all, but I'm not sure he's going to be king for all that long, either due to health or what have you. And William is having the next solar eclipse on October 25th conjunct his midhaven, which a solar eclipse is a new moon eclipse, and that shows an ascension of some kind. Now, I don't think he's going to ascend right on October 25th, just like Queen Elizabeth didn't pass on the May 16th in Scotland. She didn't pass when that eclipse happened. Okay. It's in a time frame. It's a signal. All right. It's like up on deck or release from duty, etc. These things take time. People often misunderstand how the energy of eclipses work, and eclipses work in cycles. They work in pairs. There's whole long cycles called Soros cycles. It's complex. Okay. But just in layman's terms, William will be being called into service at some point. Probably, it might be for 2024, maybe not in 2023, but that it might be that he's having to assume more responsibility in 2023. And I don't think that just means being Prince of Wales. Okay. I don't think that's it. It's much more significant than the expected. Okay. I also think King Charles is King Charles III. I think he's gonna be a little bit of a loose cannon. I think he's gonna press his ecological agenda, and I think he's gonna do some really unexpected things. I think he's gonna. He's always been a little bit different when it comes to that. So I'm kind of watching with a little bit of interest. So that's there. And I was just talking to a good friend of mine tonight, who also spent a lot of time in England. And regardless of your feelings about monarchy or the royal family, it does feel weird. This was a person who was a symbol of power, a common figure in common discourse with an uncommon attachment to duty, whether we approve or disapprove of it, for more than our lifetimes, more than our lifetimes. So generations grew up with her as a presence. So, if you feel some kind of way about it, well, that's to be expected. It is the end of an era as a new era begins, and that's very fitting of the energy of the times we're living in. And I talked a little bit about that on TikTok tonight. So what else am I going to talk about? Well, we got patron shout outs. We got to thank the patrons, because without the patrons, we don't have a podcast. Without the patrons, we don't have a podcast. And we got a big old full moon coming up. The full moon in Pisces happens on the 10th. And Mercury retrograde, of course. Mercury retrograde starts on the 9th in the evening. Okay, and if you didn't listen to my last podcast episode, I talked about what Mercury retrograde is going to bring and why there is no pre-shadow. It's not a thing. We have a pre-retrograde. They're not the same idea. Okay, and so I'll talk a little bit about that on the podcast as well. Yeah, it's getting interesting. We live in interesting times. Keep your seatbelts on. Put your crash helmets on, because the energy just keeps getting faster. Mercury retrograde is not going to slow it down too much, but it will give us the opportunity to prepare. And it's kind of the last opportunity to prepare for the fall and winter of 2022. So, with that happy news, let's do a patron shout out. And then we'll talk about that big old full moon. As always, a huge thank you to my patrons. Patrons join at patreon.com/The Awake Space. I want to thank the newest patrons. That's what I do every episode. We got Jenny, Kelly, Christina, Britton, Jacqueline, Drew, Sherry, Brandy, Ashley, Amber, Jessica, Deborah, Manica, Kara, Bridget, Ariana, Danielle, Victoria, Sarah, Natalie, Bridget, Catherine, Wendy, Jessica, Alexandria, Finnegan, Emily, Rhonda, Angelica, Beth, Shaw, Dora, Kelly, Tanya, Aaron, Ari, Julie, Gina, Lisa, Energy Nikki, Just Devra, Randall, Barbara, Emma, Catherine, Jerry, Angie, Figi, and Marissa. Thank you so much. And what's going on in the Discord? I haven't given a Discord update. We went back to being patron only because Jennifer, who is our Discord diva, works over 50 hours a week at her day job, and trying to keep this open and with reserved content was just too much maintenance, too much work. So and there's so many good organizations out there. Anyway, there's plenty of other people doing what I was trying to do with the free stuff, and my Patreon doesn't cost much. It's $3 a month. It's $11 a month. I try to keep that access open and available. The $3 gets the shout outs, coffee with Lori, and access to the Discord, plus the Astro guides, as well as some free info like on how to read astrology, etc. It's all good stuff. Okay, the $11 gets the horoscopes every couple of days, and they're spooky accurate. So let's see what's going on in the Discord. Of course, there was a ton of chat going on about the Queen. The news headlines are popping. One of the most popular parts is the current events thread in people making a lot of discourse. We have a lot of very politically aware people in here, which is very cool. We lean left, so if you don't, you probably won't like us. And so I just give you a heads up. You can believe what you want, but we are leftists. Astrology memes are often funny. Our comedy thread is so sad. It's so funny. It's just the memeage is strong. The memeage is strong, and it can be on any subject, and they're very funny. We people are talking about, we have threads for everything because astrology is reflective of life, so everything can have astrology wrapped around it. There's lots of discussions. The Awakening channel is also a great place for people to discuss metaphysics and trade secrets, back and forth, and resources. We also have just basic prep. How to prep for winter, how to prep your garden, how to do food prep. And let me tell you, there are some really good cooks and food preservers. The pictures are mouth-watering. So if you want to join us, make sure you click the link in the description, and we would love to meet with you. We would love to meet with you. All right, with that, let's talk about that big Pisces full moon. All right, let's look at that big full moon in Pisces. And I say it's a big full moon in Pisces because the moon is sextiling Uranus. And so if you like to do energy work, spell work, this is a great moon for that. It really is. What kind of magic? Well, I would be working with the elements for certain. For those of you who work with elements, maybe if you need to bring in rain or if you need to reduce rain, this would be a good time to play around with that. If you are working on setting intentions around your financial status, if you're working on honing your intuition, this would be good. It's definitely one if you're working, if you're a service-oriented energy worker, would be great for that. Honing your gifts as a clairvoyant, clairaudient, a reader of any kind. This is all good energy for that to set your intentions around. Remember, full moons are for harvest, and if you were setting intentions on the Pisces new moon, then you want to go look back at those. You just type into Google Pisces new moon 2022 and you can go back and see when that was. Mundane weather wise, this is very wet, and I was saying this already on TikTok. I already gave my heads up. Here we go. There's very surprising energy. This is big storm energy. There's a lot of wind in this chart. There's a lot of lightning. And this is global. This isn't just in one spot. However, I set my charts for Southern California. That's where I live. And we happen to have a bit of a hurricane heading our way. I expect it to behave differently than expected. I'm hoping it still drops a hell of a lot of rain because we could use it. I'm a little concerned about the amount of lightning that might be involved. So we'll see how we rock and roll. I think we could see earthquakes and seismic activity happening offshore more than onshore. And when I talk about seismic activity, I'm really talking about anything above a 4.0. Anything under a 4.0 doesn't really do a whole lot of quote unquote damage. Kind of 4 and above is where you feel them, not making light of anything, but you get thousands of earthquakes every single day all over the world. And I actually use an earthquake app to just kind of follow up on my predictions. And I have it set to 4.0 because otherwise that damn thing goes off all day long. So when I'm talking about seismic activity, it's 4.0 and above. Not that you don't feel the ones that are under 4.0, you can, but I'm looking at things that do damage to property, infrastructure, and disrupt your life more than startle you. And they can get the adrenaline going. There was a 3.5 a couple years ago that we just happened to be right in the right spot for the resonance of that energy, and felt like a truck hit the house, but nothing got damaged. But it was startling, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about doing actual, damage is what I'm looking at. So I think these things will probably be offshore, looking more, maybe mid-Atlantic, maybe Mediterranean, off the coast of East Africa in the Indian Ocean. There could be some of that, and we could also see the Bering Straits, and so Alaska, Kamchatka, and if there's anything onshore, I think it's more likely in Central Asia. So there's that. That was the Discord popping, if you heard that ding. It often is. There's some just really fascinating. Mercury will be retrograde late September 9th. Retrogrades late, so it stations late on the 9th. It's in retrograde motion in time for this full moon, which happens at about 2:58 a.m. Pacific on September 10th. I think we could see radiation leaks confirmed on this. I think they're already there in the Ukraine. I have for a while. With this Mars and Gemini, and it is still trine Mercury in Libra, even though Mercury is retrograde. So that trine also says I think there's going to be some really, like, you could see a train derailment. We could see an air crash or delays or strikes causing delays in travel. What else do I see with this? I see a lot of stuff. We've got the Uranus and Saturn-Uranus square forming. It's on the approach. I think we'll see more labor disputes happen. And yeah, this is over the weekend, but I think we'll see some announcements as a result of this. It's going to be an interesting ride, my friends. It's going to be an interesting ride. So what does it mean for you? Now, on an individual level, you can have a great day. If you live somewhere where there's expected big weather, and this could be tropical storms, hurricanes, big winds, big temperature drops, I expect a ton of precipitation with this. One, if you live somewhere where there's going to be a lot of precipitation, make sure you've got supplies. Make sure you're not out traveling in flooded roads. Do your due diligence. Keep your safety. If you can get sandbags and you need them, use them. It's not. We'll see. I don't know that it'll cause too many wildfires. I think we're lucky. These storms are coming in on the moon in Pisces, but I think we might see some extraordinary hail in some places. Maybe not in California, but maybe like in other parts of the Southwest, into Texas, up into the Midwest. New Zealand, you need to look out for some weather as well. Yeah. So, and I think we'll hear about leaks in foreign affairs, not just radiation leaks, but I think we'll hear more about classified documents that have been shared. I think there might be information coming out of the intelligence community. We might hear more about hacking or corporate espionage. I think those are things we might hear more about. it's just kind of a mess as we roll forward. Again, we want to be, I think we're going to hear some big economic news. Probably the retail failures. We could hear, like because of overstock and inventory, a lot of the retailers are taking big hits. Yeah, that's a lot. But on an individual level, you can have a great day. Remember, you're receiving on the full moon. You're not sending when it comes to, you're harvesting. You're harvesting from your intentions on the new moon in Pisces. It's a culmination of something. It's a fruition of something, and it depends on the house where Pisces is in your natal chart. Remember, you got all 12 signs in your natal chart. I got a free class on this, guys. I got a free class. If you're a patron, I just posted a reminder post for that. And you can also go in the Discord into the patron freebies and goodies section. Everything's linked up in there. Some of the blog posts aren't anymore because I put my blog to bed for a little bit because I need to clean it up and I don't have time. So, but the astro guides are there. The intro to natal charts is posted there, and I just posted it on Patreon again. Okay, you can look at that. That alone is worth the $3 a month, guys. Oh yeah, I was going to talk about Mark Meadows a little bit. Maybe I'll do that next week. But I think he's going to come into play real soon. I think Mark Meadows will. I actually have a birth time for him. So I think I'll talk about that next week. That might be a fun one to talk about with the mods. Speaking of the mods, who are also my astrologers in residence. And hey, if you've been taking classes with me and you're like, hey, why didn't Lori pick me? There were a lot of factors that made me pick the apprentices. So it's not just the astrological knowledge. There's just the chemistry between people, the synastry between people, and I already have a lot to do, so I wanted to make sure it's just a real easy group for me to manage and work with. That's all, and other people, I look at their lives and their circumstances as well. By the way, it was like, who has time? Yeah, so it wasn't, you could be, all of my students are really good. I don't have any students who are bad. Everybody is learning that astrology like a boss. It's amazing. I'm really proud of every single one. But I hand selected these guys just for certain other things, other qualities, and again, the chemistry of the group. Just it worked so easily, and I have enough on my plate. I need to make sure things are always working easily. Speaking of easily, Mystery School has started. I'm super excited about that. Very, very excited about that. We had our first sessions. What's nice is it's a rolling enrollment. So I'll be sending out some more links to patrons, because patrons are getting a first swing at it, because I'm still kind of cleaning some things up. Okay, so there's some stuff that it all works. I'm just making it pretty now. So, and it's still a pretty site. I'm pretty impressed with it. But there's just little tweaks here and there before I open it to the big wide world. But it's just so affirming and so wonderful to watch it in action and seeing people get value out of it right away. That's just amazing to me. So it's a very, very gratifying thing. What is the Mystery School? Well, the Awake Space, the Modern Mystery School, is really the first kind of new concept of a mystery school in a couple hundred years. It is how we train our Mercuries and kind of reprogram our Venuses so they're not repelling our desire nature, but rather aligning into our desire nature so that our Venus can tell our Mars how to take aligned action. It's about creating a life you want to live without the hype, some of the personal growth stuff. This is based on neuroscience and metaphysics. okay, which go hand in hand, by the way, because neuroscience started proving out what metaphysicians have known forever. And again, this is what I can get my doctorate of education in. When I took the program as it sits right now, by the way, so I'm redoing some of those videos to kind of fit the mystery school branding, but from, I think it was like the 5th incarnation of this process that has been well tested. I took it into my alma mater and said, hey, I want to get a doctorate with this work. And they were like, wow, you did your dissertation. That's really cool. Yeah, you could do that. So, did I do it yet? No, I've been too busy. I might do it next year. I keep saying that, but I don't really care. I like the fact that I can get it. But I'm so anti-disestablishmentarianistic. Thank you, Mrs. Schultz, my 3rd grade teacher, for teaching me anti-disestablishmentarianism. Oh my God, that was my favorite word growing up after she taught it to me. But I could be like, you know why your online learning didn't work? It's because you guys suck at it and you need to make it fun. You need to make it engaging. You don't just make people watch a video and go, okay, write a paper. That's not how it works. That's not how any of it works. I can't believe people did that. This is so stupid. But anyway, I have a process that makes it fun and invites participation. So that's okay. I get all worked up. As you know I get all worked up. I get worked up because I want people to succeed. I want people to be happy. I want people to be well taken care of. There's no reason for anyone to go hungry. There's no reason for anyone to go houseless. There's no reason for people to live poorly in this life. I mean, even Buckminster Fuller was talking about that back in the 1950s. Some of this stuff is not new. What does that have to do with metaphysics? Everything, because we're moving into the Pluto and Aquarius era, and it is time for us to see how we can work together socially, as a group, as humanity. So, anyway, that's my story, Morning Glory. So this is a short one, guys, but I just wanted you to have a heads up for the full moon. I'll have those horoscopes up in Patreon for the rising signs. I wouldn't freak out about it. I just want you to have a heads up about the weather, about finances, and like I said, we can see radiation leaks, plants of, like chemical plants, gas leaks, things like that. So that kind of stuff is up on deck, but that's not going to impact everybody like 100% personally. I don't know that the radiation in Ukraine is going to be like a Chernobyl event, but I do think it's a local issue that is quite awful for the local population there. Fingers crossed. Do make sure you're buying stuff for your pantry now. Do it during Mercury retrograde. We've got the Mercury retrograde period to get our shit together, and this full moon is really going to illuminate that. Okay, especially since Neptune is retrograde, and after that full moon at 17 degrees of Pisces, it will illuminate the truth, and that's where we're really going to see the leaks, not just the leaks of radiation or chemicals or gas, but the leaks of information as well. We're going to find out some dirty deeds when the moon hits Neptune in Pisces. Alrighty. Take care, my friends. I'll talk to you soon. The next official podcast episode will be episode 42, The Answer to Everything, and we'll have the mods on for Mod Talk. I'm Lori Rivers, your host. Thank you for listening to the Awake Space Astrology Podcast. Be safe, be well.